All right, welcome to the King CJ Music Podcast. Let's be honest though, and this is the thing. This is what I knew what was gonna happen, and this is what I'm constantly seeing from a lot of people in hip hop at this current date, this current age and stage, right? The current concept, essentially, that it being, oh well, there's no real people doing hip hop anymore, and that's fine, right? That's truly fine. How was everyone doing today? But we had this beef with Joey and Ray, and now we have Reason responding, right, to this little diss track because we finally got a response to the ruler, so he had to respond, right? So this is basically TDE West versus TDE East, right? This is essentially what it is because we've seen paperwork or a screenshot of paperwork that has said that Top Dog and Joey Badass have decided to, I guess, make TDE East. Um, okay, let's talk about this, right? Because essentially, this is what I knew what was going to happen, right? And this is why I was like, if we get a bunch of rap battles, this is not gonna go well. And we got one, but we kind of have proved my point to this extent. And the point being that LA has just one sound. It sounds like gritty. It sounds like the same producers like Boy One, Boy One, Boy One, right? We've heard these producers make these beats, and we've heard people try to rap on these beats, and it seems like it's the same artist. It sounds very like a similar flow, a similar stance, a similar style. It's that Cali style that as people were like, oh, well, that's like Kendrick Lamar, not like us, because it's that gritty dance style that they love to make, like dance beats to, right? When they rap, it sounds identical. And so when we have people having these conversations, what I'm hearing from a lot of people is, hey, you know, why is he copying Kendrick? Did Kendrick write these beats? What people don't understand on that hip hop side, or this aspect of hip hop, is that LA has always had this sound. It's that sound that Kendrick got on Not Like Us that made him win it because people like that LA sound. However, this is the downfall of it, though. When you push a lot of artists into rap battles with Joey Badass, for example, one of the insane lyricists that he is. He's a great MC, right? With reason. He's a great MC. No longer with TDE because he has issues with TDE and he says it's none of our business. How we can keep it like that? It's none of our business what he got with TDE, but he didn't like being with TDE. So we got dropped for talking about Drake and the Kendrick versus Drake battle, right? But we heard Ray say that they like Family Matters, So it's not bad in that aspect of it though. The problem is though, it sounds the same when people try to get like in a dance battle or they try to get in a rap battle. That LA sound sounds the same, right? And it's kind of this thing of people saying that, but it shows the difference between LA and New York. New York has always had an underground rap battle scene that has always been great, has always flourished. Our DNA, um, DNA, Conceited, Hitman Holla, Arsenal. Like we've have artists that have had that battle rap scene. Proof, Royce. We've had people that had these battle rap scenes in Detroit, New York, Florida sometimes, but mostly is that New York battle sound that we've heard before, where it's like, hey, we've had people that wanted to take the rings before, and that can rap like no other. The problem is they're not popular enough, right? But that's always been the thing. Like we've always kept it. New York has always kept it like underground, right? Has kept it underground. Virginia with their producers like Pharrell, Timberland. Like we've had producers from the DMV that are just like some of the amazing producers. We've had the Alchemist. We've had a lot of people from this particular coast that are like artists that are artists and producers that are very much like, hey, we want to keep it from the public eye. We want to make stuff and have fun and enjoy it, right? While you have people on that California coast that are like, hey, no, we're gonna put our best. We're gonna back whoever we back, and that's straight who it's gonna be, right? And so, but the problem is, right, and this is the problem, right? This is the problem I see with California, and I also see with New York. They're saying that that New York used to be the Mecca, right? And you will see it in Atlanta. LA Atlanta has that trap hat sound, right? Like it's very, but you could hear it. they're known for like that Ti, that Future, that fuse of that Trap Soul hat, like that hat, that like very specific hat. Um, right, and then you talk about New York. It used to be the Mecca. This is the issue. This is truly the issue. I think the issue is for a lot of people, Atlanta has been the Mecca. Atlanta has been the Mecca of that scene. New York has been able to fuse with it because they've been able to like strictly battle rap, right? Like we've heard it from drill music like Pop Smoke, we've heard it from Fabio Foreign, we've heard it from Lil TJ. We've had artists that have been New York famous but have not decided to release music. And so when Ray or Reason goes and says that that used to be the Mecca, and it's interesting because they're like, from a standpoint in which they're like, Ice Spice used to be is the king of New York, and that's kind of insane to me, right? Because this is the thing, that whole beef between Kendrick and Drake started this because y'all originally said y'all don't care where y'all are from, you don't care where people are from, but that whole target towards Drake was essentially he wasn't from the States, so he wasn't part of the culture, and then we reflipped this rebuttal and saying we don't care where you're from, which is insane because he's from Brooklyn, right? But it's that like word on play where hip hop has it's a sport, but it's a hypocritical sport to me. Like looking back at it, it's a hypocritical sport, right? Because it has kind of pointed out its flaws to me, right? It's kind of pointed out its flaws to me, um, right? Because now we're tarnishing records and we don't care, right? That's insane. I might have to go listen back to Ether. Um, But it's like we've done this work, and then we're like, we don't care who does it, we don't care where you're from, but we that's the whole reason we ganged up on the artist because we didn't like who he was, like he was from like Texas or Canada, so we called him out, right? Which is an interesting take, but it is concerning, right? It's very much concerning to the point of if we addressed one thing, then we need to address two things, right? And the problem with that is hip hop's constantly, oh, we don't care where you're from. As long as you can be an MC and a rapper, we don't care where you're from. But then attack Drake for that same reason, right? The problem with this though is for everybody that's in California, that hip hop scene has said, well, you can't come on our coast and say who the king of that area is. As Snoop Dogg said it and said that I can't tell you who the hip hop king of that is, right? I can't tell you who it is because I'm not from there. I'm not playing it, right? But then this is why I'm saying like hip hop has become hypocritical because Cali said that, and so you aim at Joey Badass and say that she's the king of New York, but yet you don't know what that New York sound is, right? We lost Pop Smoke. We've lost a lot of people in New York to like gun violence and other things, but to say, hey, you can't tell us who the king of ours, who the king of us, who the king of Cali is, of that coast, and then go, nah, New York, it's Ice Spice. Like that's you don't see the hypocritism in that, right? Like it's weird because like listening to these diss tracks, I'm like, these diss tracks are nice, but then when you break them down, you're like, what is this? Has hip hop finally become hypocritical to where the point of, hey, you can't criticize hip hop because it's part of the culture, but then it's weird to me because that was emphasized. It's part of the culture. If you're not part of the culture, you won't understand. But like, what are we doing here? Because like, if he's not part of the culture, then we're basically like what is the culture? Like the culture is the defense when we don't want it to be certain people involved, and that's fine. But you can't gatekeep and then go, we don't care where you from, right? And especially from TDE, because TDE artists, this is and I'm not attacking TDE, right? I'm not attacking TDE, but TDE artists sound the same. Like if you Kendrick, Ray, and Reason has always rapped this way. I've heard Reason's first few albums. He's always rapped this way, right? The problem is though, you hear it after you hear Kendrick, which Kendrick is the bigger artist from TDE, or he was at TDE, and you think that's the Kendrick sound because everyone in LA has said he's the king of that geographical area. The problem with that is a lot of artists have rap like that. That's just the California style. The problem is though, the California style, and this isn't a diss to anybody, but the California style, a lot of people don't like because of like that 808 griminess of it, right? That when you want something fun, you go to Atlanta, right? When you go and want a producer, probably Virginia, probably, right? Or the DMV area, right? If you want that Fury energy, like if you want that Fury energy, you go to New York, you go to Brooklyn, you go to Queens because they have some of the best rappers, spitters to be out there. The problem with that is, that doesn't really like help a lot of people. Because a lot of people aren't tapped into hip hop, but the whole phrase was they're not like us. They're not like us. And the problem with that is though, if you don't know the context of it, the context doesn't. If you don't know the context, you're just saying lyrics, right? For example, I was raised this question earlier where they were like, "Hey, why do people sample in hip hop? Right? Why do people sample like large numbers in hip hop?" The problem with that standpoint is though, if hip hop's always been an art that samples from pop, has always sampled from blues, has always sampled from jazz, has always sampled other hip hop artists. The problem is people have decided to gatekeep a culture and not inform people, but then say if you're not like African American, you don't know the culture, right? But then you have people that have gone on stage and said that they understand that music has some kind of culture to it and it's very subjective. And then we end up in this point where we're rapping about people that people are like, oh, I don't understand the Ray and Joey thing when Ray kind of like took shots at Joey's wife, right? And then they don't understand why she's fine for TDEs. Like these are subtle things. Like if you don't get it, you won't understand it because even I think Ray says it. I think he says Ho Era, which is a play on Pro Era with Joey and a bunch of other like hip hop artists that were great at the time, right? But like if you don't know the difference between Ho Era and Pro Era, we're steps behind where we should be, right? But that's not a conversation you can have with somebody that doesn't um that like if you don't know the hip hop pioneers, I can't help you, right? If you don't know who CJ Fry is, we gotta work a few steps backwards. We can't just go, hey, he said Ho Era, now he's talking about Pro Era. Like and I feel Joey, you used Ho Era, to basically promote. Because even Reason says it. I'm not going to step on your promotion for albums, which we know. I don't think Joey's doing a promotion for his album because Joey released The Ruler, the final, and the final isn't being like dropped anywhere. So we can assume that it's a Ray rollout, which is like that's like you don't understand because y'all are like, oh, well, you shouldn't use another artist's name for a rollout, but like two former TD artists did for rollouts, and we got GNX, and then we got this. But then say, oh, you shouldn't do it. You should do it for the love of the sport. It's for the love of the sport, and I get it. I get New York now back in Joey because they're like, why should we? Right? Because if you get anybody, and don't get me wrong, if we hear somebody from Still, it's gonna be interesting, right? It's gonna be interesting who we hear from New York, because let's be clear, it wasn't. It's still not, right? It's not. And we've had these conversations before where people are like, well, why shouldn't somebody be part of something if they don't know the culture? If you don't know the culture, the song Not Like Us is weird because it's just a hit song, but the context behind it makes it different, right? Like the whole Era song makes a lot of sense if you know Pro Era, right? But if you don't know Pro Era, Whole Era is just a song, right? It's the context, and I get it, but like if you don't understand the promotion of it, I can't it's weird. Like I can't break it down for you, but like I get it. Like if you never heard anybody from Cali rap, then you think he's copying Kendrick because Kendrick is the biggest step here, and most people only tuned in to rap because of that Kendrick flow, of that Kendrick versus Drake flow. And then that conception of it being, why would he respond? You know, Joey said if you want a friendly spar, Joey's here. If you don't know, Joey and Kendrick have both respected each other for years, so a friendly spar wouldn't be out the way. They're saying, but it wouldn't be for the audience's appeal, which, okay, fine, the audience wouldn't appeal to it. But the masses that know the background of hip hop would love it. Right? But also at that same time, though, people are like, well, I don't understand. Why would he do that? It's not for the masses. It's not, we can't came on the throne. The problem is that same criticism was for J. Cole, the same criticism for Drake, was that they didn't respond to a friendly diss track, so they can't have the throne. And so we want to hear from somebody that has the throne. Speak on it, right? It's interesting because people are like, I don't understand. Like, why are we so harsh on him speaking now? Because he has the throne. If he has the throne, he has to speak on it. The same reason Eminem had the throne and did warning shots, right? Like, it's to Nick and Mariah. Like, it's it's just for the love of the sport. But like, we haven't heard a diss from anybody that like wants to take it on. So like, what's, I don't know. I just think when you want to have topics and discussions and stuff like that, I think it's great. The problem is you need to have the context, which a lot of people don't have the context because they don't know the context. And nothing wrong not knowing the context, but then you can't say you're a rap fan, or MC purist, right? Like we got to have this shit all day, or Bonnie, or Bonnie. What was it? Bonnie? What is it? Bonnie? Is it Bonnie God? Something. It's something. But she's another like MC that can rap. She did a lot of battle rap when I was growing up. But like these are like MCs that I want to talk about, but like the context matters, and like I don't know, like it's weird, right? It's weird because people on the outside they're like, well, I don't understand that, right? Like the difference between a freestyle and off the dome. Like if you don't understand off the dome was meaning you didn't have any lyrics, and a freestyle meaning you had lyrics, then we have to break that down. But it's interesting. At that same time, though, let's talk. It's been like it seems like it's feel like it's been 4 days, but Diddy has a trial that's essentially gonna last 8 weeks, essentially, right? We've had wild testimony from a lot of different people, and I'm not here to like discriminate like their or defame their character, but it seems like there's a wild case, and it seems like the first charge to me, well, anyway, it seems like the first charge to me in this RICO, essentially, it was being charged with, as trafficking, and then we've seen the government's case for like RICO. It seems like he's going to be charged with a RICO, but the idea of him being charged with a RICO is 20 years each charge, right? But we've seen this play before by the state or the prosecutor, where they go for prostitution and trafficking across state lines, which we've seen. These are all from like reports from like different people, like collectively what they've said. I mean, kind of like bring down like the side notes to it, but essentially, that's what it seems like. It seems like it's gonna be very short lived. I think it's not gonna be necessarily like a huge live, but it's gonna be like a short lived. It just seems like it's gonna be very short lived. At that same time, though, I think if we've seen this before, basically we've seen this before with we've seen it with Gotti, but Gotti got charged with same with the Bull, and so I guess Lucky Luciano, they got charged for prostitution on a RICO charge because prostitution is the only charge they can make stick. And he charged for prostitution, but he was never like physically involved with it. And so we've seen people charge RICO. We've seen New York charge RICO. And so it's interesting how other cases or other judges charge RICO, because originally it's the anti-mob law, and so seeing like a person like Diddy technically being charged with a RICO, it's weird because they're charging him with a RICO charge, and RICO charges are. I'm gonna say RICO charges are hard to beat. If you beat a RICO charge, you should celebrate because RICO charges have a very low odds of winning a RICO charge, for the defendant. But if you win as a defendant on a RICO charge, yeah, you're very lucky. Um, Normally people plead out because if you get a RICO, that's serious. Um, I don't know. What else do we want to talk about today? Do we want to talk about the Tory Lane situation in which allegedly a bodyguard came out? It still hasn't been like verified, and there's still technically hearsay unless he has recordings, which I'm not sure he does. But it's hearsay that he said that one of the people involved in the shooting decided and spoke out on a ride that he was a drive that he was given her, the alleged suspect. I say alleged because they're saying that an artist did it, and I'm not too sure that I'm not sure. I wasn't there. Um, Most of the case filing I saw from Tory Lanez is essentially him being in the possession of a firearm. But if he doesn't have if he didn't shoot, I don't know. We could talk about possibilities with a lawyer. This isn't legal advice, but we could talk about him not being in possession of the firearm if he didn't like grab the firearm. He wasn't in possession of it at the time. But we can talk about possession on a different day. But technically, he wasn't supposed to be around the firearm, and that's going to be a sticky case because he didn't get charged with actually um, malicious wounding, which we could talk about. But I don't think he was charged with that. So essentially, like this is the argument: is that somebody that was driving the celebrity around says that they admitted that they were the one that possessed the firearm. Um, and that's a weird thing to do, and I get it at the time, but we're hearing from like reports for Jason Lee and others that Tory Lanez is going to do an interview. When he gets out, he's doing one interview, and so with that being said, though, he has evidence that was like not shown in discovery, which that is I would have took that I would have fought that if that's the case. I would have fought that, but I know lawyers will tell you, hey, do not take the stand because they'll use your history of crimes to convict you and sway the audience and sway the jury, which I think the jury was already swayed at the time. I think the public had made their mind up of that situation when it went to trial, and so fair. I don't know. I don't want any lawyer using my statement as fact, but I don't know if we could say he was going to get fair treatment. I don't know. I think we talk about fair treatment, and I'm not entirely sure where I stand on that, right? Because I think you can be honest and not be treated fairly, but the justice system in itself is a slow process, and people are like, I'm tired. This case was like in 2020. I'm tired of hearing it, but this is literally how law enforcement goes. It takes time to build a case. It's not like, hey, the crime is done. We build the case. We're done. It's not normally how it goes, but it takes time, and a lot of people aren't used to that time that it takes for like to be convicted of a crime. So it's interesting. At that same time, though, I don't know. I think if this trial is essentially 8 weeks, uh, we'll get a verdict, and if we get that verdict, I don't know. If I'm Diddy, I am worried because I think I think that any charge on a RICO charge is going to be hard. Um, but from the reports that I'm hearing outside, and no one knows what the jury is thinking besides the jury, and the jury is not supposed to like listen to anything or watch anything on the news. Um, this is going to be interesting. From what I'm worried that they're going to get him on a trafficking charge, and that's 20 years. I think if it's an official RICO, I think it is, but I don't know, it's interesting because they didn't want to do like a video trial of Diddy's case, and so Hulu put out like a short version, which I haven't officially watched. So let me put it. I haven't officially watched that version of Hulu because it came out like yesterday. But it'll be an interesting case to watch because it'll be a case study. It'll like Gotti's case was a case study for RICO charges. Um, it'll definitely be a case study somewhere. Probably at Columbia. It'll be a case study. Um, I know in some psychology field, it'll probably be a case study on the effects of people in situations where they have been assaulted. I think I think it'd be an interesting study to do. I think at some point you would have to do like a case study, and I think a case study would be interesting to do. However, I'm not entirely sure you do a case study and it works effectively. Um, like Milgrod's camp study, it'll be interesting to do, but I don't know if you get accurate data. Anyway, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the King CJ Music Podcast episode for today. I know we talked about a lot of different things. I know it was a longer episode, and with that being said, I do hope to see you and watch me in the next one. Goodbye.